Of the sponsors and underwriters of the new exhibitions, and you will see them scrolling on the screen behind us. And I want to welcome you tonight to the new Summer-Fall Exhibition Season 2025. I'm Michele Ellis Pracy. I'm the Executive Director and the Chief Curator at the Fresno Art Museum. And we welcome all of you to our Curator Artist Talks, which will take place now until they're all finished at about 6 o'clock. And then we don't have questions and answers in the auditorium. We break and go to the respective galleries and visit with the curators and the lenders and the artists. Before I go on to any more information about tonight, I need to thank the Fresno Art Museum staff, who has done a phenomenal job over these last 6 weeks. Curating and installing and putting up gorgeous vinyl designs that accommodate each exhibition. So I would like to just read their names and they can raise their hand. Sarah Vargas, Curator. Lexi Selleck, Registrar. Susan Yost Filgate, Education Director. John Brewer, who is our Chief Preparator, and drove Linda Lomahaftewa's exhibition all night long from Santa Fe to Fresno to bring it here in time. Sanking Saifan is sick tonight, but he's instrumental. He designed and painted the mural in the vestibule for the cemetery exhibition. And he was, the sous chef was Reynaldo Rodriguez. And a special thanks to Linda Zupsik. I don't think she's here tonight, but she was the graphic designer of the Linda Lomahaftewa catalog. And Susan and Sarah and Hamilton, Craig Hamilton Arnold is somewhere here, I hope, were the editors of her catalog. So thank you to all of you. We couldn't do it without you. So this is a season organized, curated by FAM staff. The pandemic and our commitment to exhibitions that we could not show the 2 years we were closed, we are finished with showing them as of last season. So we're very thrilled that this season is internal, it's in-house. So we're very excited. We have a locally held sculpture collection. We have a solo show for a local artist. We are showcasing an installation from our permanent collection, and we celebrate the Council 100's 2025 Distinguished Woman Artist Linda Lomahaftewa, and a thought-provoking alphabet book for our Any Given Child program, which was curated by Susan Yost Filgate. The thread that ties the varied exhibitions together is the word honor and the act of honoring. We are honoring the once living with Joe Hanson's Crab Orchard Cemetery. We are honoring cultural diversity with stone sculpture of Zimbabwe. We are honoring the agriculture of the Central Valley and the people who work the fields. We are honoring the local, I've already done that, all right, sorry. We are honoring the distinguished woman artist Linda Lomahaftewa and her indigenous ancestry with the solo exhibition of her early paintings and recent works. We are honoring childhood imagination with the illustrations of Ashley Spires for an alphabet book entitled Magnificent Makers A to Z. So what happens now is the exhibition curators will introduce their exhibition, and then the artists or lenders that are part of that will speak. And at the end of the program, the people on the stage will break to their respective galleries. So please welcome Susan Yost Filgate, who will present a PowerPoint and discuss her exhibition.
Thank you, Michele. Wow, welcome everybody. Boy, it's good to see the auditorium almost full. There are a few seats down here if people want to try to find a seat. There's quite a number of them. Anyway, I curate an exhibition every year for kids, basically. And those exhibitions, I like to focus on children's books, because children's books are the first visual art that kids experience. And I think they can appreciate The fact that a museum is carrying it gives it even more importance. So every year I search for someone who is of great talent and who also has something important to say, has a profound statement, or very relevant to kids, positively impactful. And this year I picked a woman who's actually Canadian. She's from the Vancouver area, and she has created quite a number of books. The one that I've chosen to feature in this exhibit is The Magnificent Makers, The Most Magnificent Makers A to Z. She's done a bunch of magnificent books, and some of her books have even been turned into animated films in Canada for kids. And when I first discovered her, I was really touched by the playfulness of her graphic imagery and by the charm and wit of her words. And learning that Roald Dahl had been one of her favorite childhood authors, it made sense. She learned a lot from him, and he's one of my favorites too. So he's very quirky and inventive kind of writing, and her images are very fun. She works in digital format, totally in Photoshop. Even her sketches are done in Photoshop, not Illustrator, Photoshop. And so the only originals to speak of are actual digital files, which we've had to produce as prints, which makes it a lot easier, especially when things are being shipped from another country to here. It makes it a lot easier when we can actually print them here, and everything comes through on the internet rather than through the mail. So that does simplify things a bit. Anyway, we curated this exhibition. I had some help from our staff here that's incredible, and some input and ideas, and I think you'll have a lot of fun looking at the exhibition, and we've made it really inviting. It's a real warm color. It's about a little girl who's a maker, and I found it really important. She makes things, and she invents things, and she makes mistakes, and she has failures, and she has successes. But what she always does is, even when she fails, she tries and tries again. And I think that's a really important message for kids that will come through strongly in this exhibition. So when kids are in the gallery, little ones especially, there is a nice big rug in the center of the gallery and some blocks that they can actually create some things. They can become makers in the gallery itself. So that should be a fun element. And that was inspired by Michele, actually. So thank you. And we hope you enjoy the show. And I think that's about all I have to say right now. So, yeah. Here's the image.
Thank you, Susan. And next we have Sarah Vargas, who is Fresno Art Museum curator, and she has organized 3 exhibitions this season. Please welcome Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So the first exhibition I'm going to talk about is Joe Hanson's Crab Orchard Cemetery. In 2023, the Fresno Art Museum acquired Crab Orchard Cemetery by Joe Hanson from the Peninsula Art Museum. This installation is my interpretation of Hanson's original concept, which debuted at the Corcoran Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. in 1974. After the original installation at the Corcoran, the exhibition traveled the United States in the late 1970s and 1980s. The work has not been exhibited since 2009, and even then, it was not shown in its entirety. Our version of this installation is comprised of 28 styrofoam headstones, additional rubbings, background transparencies, audio files, and supplementary material. So let's talk a little bit about the artist herself first. Known for her innovative work that obscured the lines between disciplines, Joe Hanson was an assemblage and environmental artist and activist based in San Francisco. Born in Carbondale, Illinois in 1918, she entered the art field after careers in teaching, journalism, and social work. She received a master's degree in education from the University of Illinois and another master's degree in art from San Francisco State University. Hanson moved to California in 1955, living first in Marin County before settling in San Francisco. A strong advocate of environmental art and the feminist art movement, Hanson was a vocal member of the San Francisco arts community, pushing for the inclusion of underrepresented artists in the city's art collections, specifically women and people of color. She was also a guest professor at the University of California, Berkeley, the California College of Arts and Crafts in Oakland, and the Otis Art Institute in Los Angeles. In 1992, the National Women's Caucus for Art awarded Hanson a Lifetime Achievement Award. She received the National Women's Caucus for Art Honor Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Visual Arts in 1997. And Jo Hanson was the Fresno Art Museum's Council of 100 Distinguished Women Artists for 1998. She exhibited nationally and internationally throughout her career. Hanson's legacy continues in the growing movement of artists who focus on social and environmental issues. So Crab Orchard Cemetery is a real cemetery located near the artist's hometown in rural southern Illinois. The cemetery itself dates back to the 1830s, though the earliest tombstone replica in the exhibition is from 1847, and the latest is from 1957. Hanson discovered the cemetery in the early 1970s and was drawn to the strange, almost mystical ambiance of the site, with its changing light, erratic wind, weathered stone, and overgrown weeds. Upon further exploration, she discovered that a number of her ancestors were buried there. The idea to recreate the cemetery came to her gradually. She began doing rubbings of the gravestones, first just of her relatives, but then moving on to other stones. She returned to visit the cemetery multiple times over the next couple of years, experimenting with different rubbing techniques. During this time, Hanson had also been experimenting with using polystyrene, which is what we know best as styrofoam, in various ways. So she decided to try silk screening images onto the polystyrene. Her tombstones were created using techniques she had developed through experimenting with silk screening. She first did rubbings of the tombstones, then she photographed the rubbings and created stencils from those photographs that she applied to the tombstones. Then she applied photosensitive ink, light-sensitive ink, and she placed the tombstones outside in the sunlight, and the sun etched the images onto the styrofoam. The tombstones themselves were shaped using hot wire to cut the blocks of polystyrene into the appropriate shapes, and then hand-carved to finish the fine details. She photographed the surrounding scenery around Crab Orchard Cemetery, reproducing the negatives on 12-foot rolls of transparency meant to line the gallery walls. Hanson also recorded the ambient sounds around the cemetery at all hours to capture the bird songs and other environmental sounds. All of these elements are meant to immerse you, the viewer, into the environment, transporting you to the cemetery. Through this recreation, Hanson was striving to communicate her personal experiences within the cemetery. The project also acts as an exploration of death, what is expressed through burial practice, and who is truly being commemorated through these cultural practices. Her passion for history was thus expressed in the socio-anthropologic artistic project, elevating a real-life phenomenon to the status of an art form. In a 1976 review in Art Forum, when the works were shown at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, critic Jeff Perrone described it as being about the discretion of dealing respectfully with the unknown, as well as being an experience of memory filtered through historical recreation. As I mentioned previously, this particular staging of the works is different from her original installations. Some of her original elements have been lost to time and deterioration. She had photographed the grass and created photo squares on foam core for each tombstone, but these did not survive. So instead, I chose to use fake turf. Rather than line the walls of the room with the tombstones as she did, I have placed the stones in family plots throughout the room, allowing you to walk through them as you would in an actual cemetery. I borrowed her original idea of using fake flowers to set at the gravestones, and we hung many of the transparent photo murals she created, as well as incorporating the audio elements to immerse you in the scene. The true beauty of this piece is that it can grow and evolve over time, and I think you will find it really interesting. So the cemetery reconstruction is located in the Fig Garden Gallery, but in the Duncan Gallery, you will find a selection of two-dimensional works, including some of the original tombstone rubbings, as well as some of her experimentation with silk screening. And I hope you enjoy your visit to Crab Orchard Cemetery. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to be introducing the exhibition Stone Sculpture of Zimbabwe. About 2 years ago, a local collector reached out to me about their private collection of Zimbabwe stone sculpture. We were immediately interested in exhibiting this collection, but as you know, we schedule our exhibitions several years in advance. And so this season was the first time we had an available gallery. This collection, owned by Mona Cummings and Kudzai Nyandoro, is an exemplary collection of contemporary African sculpture. And so talking about this work today will be Kudzai. Kudzai, originally from Zimbabwe, has a deep appreciation for art in all its forms. As a child, between the ages of 9 and 13, he learned to carve soapstone at a neighbor's house, a formative experience that sparked his lifelong admiration for artistic expression. Though he no longer carves himself, Kudzai remains a passionate supporter of artists and their work, and he has personally met most of the creators in this exhibition. Beyond the art world, Kudzai works in public health, dedicating his professional efforts to advancing community well-being. So I would like to welcome him up to the microphone.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Am I close enough to the microphone? Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's an honor to be here this evening with you. My name is Kudzai Nyandoro. Right now I'm going to talk about the background of the art, the process, and a bit about the creative process of this art. Now, to save us a little more time, I'm going to keep on track by looking at my notes more often. I'll make an effort to look over there, but bear with me as we move along here. I do want you to spend a lot of time with the art that you came here to see. So here we go. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge someone who has been very instrumental in bringing this project to life. That is Bonner. Though we have transitioned from spouses to collaborators, Mona's role has been pivotal. Her efforts ensured this collection was not only revived, but beautifully presented here tonight. We'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Sarah, Michele, Lexi, and the incredible team here at the Fresno Art Museum. And to the museum's members, thank you for supporting the art. Thank you for keeping the creativity alive here in Fresno. Now, a little bit background about me. I am originally from Zimbabwe. I grew up in Victoria Falls. And it's a place of where creativity flows like a river, like the San Joaquin River outside there, or like the Zambezi River. So as a kid, my neighbors were traditional dancers. They made their masks and their traditional gear out of burlap. And that's one side of my house. The other side of my house, I had neighbors who made craft from wood and stone. And that's who I spent a lot of time with between the ages of 9 and 13. As a child, we made our toys from wires. We didn't have money to buy toys, but we made our toys from wires. We would get dad's pliers, go behind this high school, and take a piece of wire and make some wire cars. We'd make wire cars, make helicopters, and would also make things like airplanes. So as you can see, creativity was just a part of life. I spent much of my time with these local sculptors, learning to carve birds, elephants, and hippopotamuses out of stone, out of soapstone. Now remember, I was between ages of 9 and 13, and this soapstone is much softer than the rocks that you're going to be seeing here today. So as a kid, that was great. I loved working with it. It was easier to work with than the serpentine, the opal stone that you're going to be seeing here today. Later, I attended boarding school at the age of 14, and to much of my dismay, my disappointment, they did not have carving as a part of the curriculum. So that was the end of that. Now, has anybody here been to Zimbabwe? Oh, wonderful, wonderful, excellent. For those who have not been to Zimbabwe, here's a little bit of a background. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country in Southern Africa. It takes its name from the Great Zimbabwe ruins. The name Zimbabwe is Shona for House of Rocks. There is an ancient stone architecture built by the Shona people of Zimbabwe, and it dates back to the 11th and the 15th century. So it is a UNESCO heritage site. It's a symbol of craftsmanship and culture. A little bit more about the stone carving tradition. Now, as you can already tell, stone carving is deeply rooted in our culture. It is passed through families, it is guided through dreams and imagination. Sculptures reflect family, they reflect nature, spirit, and emotion. And as my good friend Tonde will say, it is a constant attempt to reveal the spirit that lies within the stone. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process here. I was hoping to bring my tools to show you what they look like, but we're going to ask you to imagine a little bit as we go through this process. So some of the art that you're going to be seeing this evening is by an artist known as Bright Mudela. And you're going to see beautiful pieces from many other artists. But I'm talking about Bright because I met him through a good friend of mine, Tonde Ngwara, who is here today. He is also from Zimbabwe. I said to Tonde one day, I want to get back into carving. And I met him like here at an art show in San Francisco. And that's how he introduced me to Bright Mudela, and whose art you're going to be seeing here today. Now, when I expressed meeting the artists, he gave me his phone number. I went to Zimbabwe with Bonner, and we met Bright. And before I tell you a little bit more about that, I want to tell you about where this rock comes from. Zimbabwe is blessed with a remarkable geological formation known as the Great Dyke. This is a 340-mile-long ridge that runs through the heart of the country. It is rich in mineral like platinum, gold, chrome, and it's not only the source of economic value, but it's also a symbol of the land's strength and natural artistry. This is where we went with Bright to pick the rocks, some of which you will see that he uses to create this art. It's serpentine, it's opal stone, it comes in different colors. Sometimes it's black, green, red, all kinds of colors. And Bright was generous enough to show me his creative process. He showed me how he decides what the rock is going to be by just listening, looking at the rock and listening to the rock. The next step from there is to use his chisel or a piece of charcoal to draw out what he is seeing, communicating with that rock. Next, he takes the cold chisel and a hammer, and it takes days. These rocks are very tough. It takes days to come up with the shape that you are working on. Next process after that is to take a rasp to remove those rough edges. From there, we go on to sandpaper. You start off with the rough sandpaper, move on to the mid sandpaper. What are you doing it? You're just removing those rough edges, making it smoother. You finally get to the smooth, fine sandpaper. This is when you put your baby in the water and wash it. You put the rock in the water and you wash it gently with that sandpaper. What happens next is you dry your baby, right? This baby gets put in the sun to dry up. The next thing is to heat it up in fire. You can heat it up in fire. If you have time, you put it in the sun. But most people use fire to heat it up. Not for long, a few seconds, depending on the size of the piece. Why? So that you can use neutral wax to let that rock pop out when you when you smear it with the wax. And that's what you're going to be seeing here today. Different colors of rocks. Blue, they can be green, they can be blue, they can be black. That's the serpentine that's black. Now, this exhibit is a tribute to the vibrant artistic spirit of Zimbabwe. In times of hardship, many Zimbabweans turn to art, not just as a means of survival, but as a way to mentally and emotionally be engaged. Art thrives in adversity. It's a way for people to contribute something meaningful to society when the resources are scarce. Now, Mona and I lived, I'm going to tell you, so how did these pieces end up here? Mona and I lived in San Francisco for 6 years. And during that time, we were inspired by the city's art scene. We were deeply inspired by the art in San Francisco, and we decided to launch a business importing these art pieces. This is when I met Bright. This is when I went to Tonde and I said, hey, I want to make the artist in Zimbabwe. I want to get back into carving. And he introduced me to Bright. And, I'm glad you're going to be seeing some of his work today. And but for us, it wasn't just art. It wasn't just about art. It was about honoring the artists themselves. It was about really understanding their journey, and it was also, about sharing their visions and their voices. So we really met most of these artists, if not all of them, and we asked for their bios. And many of them didn't have. So Mona and I would sit under a tree sometimes and just say, just tell us about yourself. And we would handwrite their bios. And then when we got to a computer, we would type them out. And we featured these on our website when we had the business. Moving along, we were able to ship in the first shipment. We were able to sell the little pieces. But the challenge came to moving and storing the big pieces because they were heavy. So it was at this point that we decided to close the business and focus on our education. Where did the pieces end up? In a garage. They were stored in a garage. And then many years went by, and then they finally emerged. Mona, a passionate traveler, noticed that the incredible exhibits at the airport, like SFO, and decided, she saw these exhibits and she decided to really talk to the people at SFO and see if they could show the exhibit there. And to our delight, they said, yes, we would take those. And they did. They were shown in February 2022 and June 2023. And also, if you have ever passed through Heathrow Jackson Airport in Atlanta, you will see that they have a permanent installation there too. Now, today's exhibit, which you came here for, the pieces you'll see are not the same as the ones that were at SFO. Sarah and her team took their time to curate and to select what they wanted to show from our collection, and we are thrilled to share that with you here today. Sarah has done a phenomenal job providing the background of the art, background of Zimbabwe. So I won't go much further than a little bit more, which is, I'll be around. If you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. But before I go, thank you for joining us tonight. May the stories carved in stone speak to you. Walk slowly, listen carefully, they will speak to you. And you may pass that spirit along. May you please pass that spirit along to your friends and to your family and tell them about what you saw today. Thank you.
I'm back. The next exhibition that I'm excited to introduce you to is The Fruit of Life, New Paintings by Eliana Saucedo. The Fruit of Life is an exhibition of 15 works by local painter Eliana Saucedo. Presenting all new works, she has created paintings that celebrate the rich agricultural traditions of the central San Joaquin Valley and her own family and culture. Eliana graduated with an MA in studio painting from California State University, Fresno in 2011. For over 10 years, she has served as an adjunct instructor at Fresno Pacific University and Reedley Community College. Additionally, she teaches art studio courses at Orosi High School. Eliana is a former member of the Fig Tree Gallery and primarily works with oil on canvas. In 2016, her artwork was featured at Clovis Community College alongside the Smithsonian National Museum of American History's traveling exhibition, Bittersweet Harvest, the Bracero Program, 1942 to 1964. She has collaborated on various art projects with the Fresno Arts Council, California State University, Fresno, Reedley Community College, the Fresno County Office of Education, Tulare County Parks and Recreation Department, and numerous galleries throughout the San Joaquin Valley. In 2011, she served as studio assistant to the renowned visiting artist Consuelo Jimenez Underwood during the artist exhibition Undocumented Borderlands at California State University, Fresno. Recently, she served as the artistic director for the Armed Forces Mural Project, honoring the local veterans at Ledbetter Park in Orosi in Tulare County, collaborating with 5 of her art students from Orosi High School. So please welcome Eliana Saucedo.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. I have a whole page, but I'm going to keep it short so we can enjoy the galleries. Okay. First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for being here this evening. I appreciate you guys being here. And I want to say thank you to Sarah for curating my exhibition. It looks amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see the space. And thank you to the Fresno Art Museum for giving me this opportunity, and also for all of the staff. Sarah did a really good job introducing my background. So I'm gonna be adding a bit more about where I grew up in my background. So if we think about California, the Central Valley, we're sandwiched between San Francisco and LA. That's the only good thing about the valley besides its heat, is that we're able to commute to San Francisco and LA. And if you think about California and the Central Valley, we think about agriculture. We cannot ignore the agriculture. It's part of our culture, our community, regarding where you come from. So I was raised here in the Central Valley. I came from a big family. There's 9 of us, 9 siblings. I'm the youngest. And there's always a connection to the agriculture when it comes to my family. My family members, they either work on the agriculture, they farm. So I feel that my artwork was really important to show that part of my connection to agriculture. And like I said, like Sarah mentioned, I received my master's degree in painting. And after I finished my master's degree, during my master's program, I worked with a monochromatic palette. So I use a lot of neutrals. Mono refers to one, so I would use black, white with a hue. So after the program, I told myself I'm gonna use a lot of color in my artwork. So when you walk into my gallery, you're gonna see a lot of bright hues. And that's one thing that I love about painting is mixing color. If you were to describe my process, I use photographs as reference, so I paint more representational, more realistic. I always challenge myself when it comes to photography I don't want to sound cliche, but sometimes I feel that representation is really important when it comes to art. So if you were to describe my process, it's more representational. I use oil on canvas. And I've been working with this medium for over 15 years. People ask me, how long have you been painting? And I just say over 15 years, okay? My inspirations, like Sarah mentioned, my inspirations, and I'm gonna share something that happened not a while back. I was at the LACMA Museum, my last visit to the LACMA Museum in LA. I came across a small painting of Frida Kahlo. It was one of her still lifes. When you think about Frida Kahlo, what comes to mind? Portraits. She's known to do a lot of self-portraits, but something that happened towards the end of her life is that she started painting still lifes. She started painting still lifes at the end when she became really ill. That was at the end of her life. And when I came across this painting, it's the painting Whipping Coconuts. And we have this beautiful composition of the coconuts. We have papaya, pears, and there was so much emotion in her still life. And there was a lot of emotions in her early work with her portraits. And I feel like still lifes, it could just be assembling objects on a table. And I feel that when it comes to still lifes, they can share so much about life. So when I saw her painting, I spent some time looking at her painting, analyzing her composition. And it was just really interesting that she started painting self-portraits of her life, maybe illustrating the suffering that she had early in her life. And then at the end, she focused on still lifes. So when you think about fruit, my exhibition is titled Fruit of Life. I also want to mention about the title of this exhibition, because I feel like when you give titles, it sets the tone, similar to like a book. So for this title, two things speak to me when it comes to this title. And so one thing is the beauty of life. When you think about fruit, you think about the fruit of life, meaning the good and bad moments in life that we experience. Beauty of life also symbolizes growth, survival, and learning, and also the passage of time. So when you look at my still lifes, we're gonna see fresh fruit, bright colors, but what happens if you cut a piece of fruit, and then what happens in a few hours, days? You go through this process of decay. The fruit is gonna get rotten. So that's also a meaning of life, similar to the Venitas, if we think about art history. There's a couple pieces in my exhibition that they're located in a glass case. And when you look at these pieces, they're starting to decay. And just think about the meaning, and it goes back to Frida Kahlo's life, early when she did her self-portraits. And at the end of her life, we focus on those fruits that could represent also a connection to those Venitas. And that's something that I want you guys to think about when you walk into my exhibition. Okay? And I'm gonna keep it short because I think that we should spend some time in the galleries. I'm really, really excited. Thank you all for being here. And thank you to the museum. And I hope you guys enjoy my exhibition. Thank you.
Okay, so Linda Lomahaftewa and I will go last this evening. So when we're finished, we'll break to the galleries. The bar will be open and the food will be passed. Linda Lomahaftewa, Hopi Choctaw, is the first Indigenous artist to be honored by the Fresno Art Museum's Council of 100 as their 35th Distinguished Woman Artist of 2025. The Council of 100 was established in 1988 at the Fresno Art Museum and is devoted to recognizing women in the arts. Each year, the selected honoree is given a solo exhibition curated by FAM's chief curator, me. A catalog is produced by the Fresno Art Museum as the exhibition's publication, and a luncheon in celebration of the artist is given later in the fall. Linda will be back in October, where she will give a lecture as part of the program. Linda Lomahaftewa is a worthy recipient of the Distinguished Woman Artist Award. Born of a Hopi father and a Choctaw mother, Linda was educated at the Phoenix Indian School in Phoenix, Arizona, and the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, before she traveled as a burgeoning young artist to San Francisco, California, to complete her BFA and her MFA at the San Francisco Art Institute. As the curator of Linda's exhibition and as director of a museum devoted to California art, the artist and I decided to focus on her paintings made during her San Francisco years, 1965 through 1972. These works, hung in the lobby gallery, are rare works. To bring her life's work to present day, a selection of current or recent works spanning the years 2008 through 2024 are mounted in the concourse gallery spaces. You will see that Linda unites the ancient Indian world with the contemporary in her modernist compositions. There are abstract landscapes of colors and shapes intrinsic to the Southwest. There are motifs holding a special spiritual power and respect. There are ceremonial figures and birds imbued with the sacredness. Linda's work captures the spaces between the physical world and the spiritual realm. She has said of her own work, "My work comes from my thinking of how a prayer would look. Things in motion, fluid moments, a liquid healing for all people." Lomahaftewa's work can be found in many public collections: the Hurd Museum in Phoenix, Arizona, the Wheelwright Museum of the American Indian in Santa Fe, the Millicent Rogers Museum in Taos, among others in the United States and Canada. Actually, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art has acquired 2 pieces on exhibit in this exhibition, and at the close of the show, they will go to San Francisco. Linda has traveled and exhibited globally, including New Zealand, England, Russia, and China. She retired from teaching at the Institute of American Indian Art after teaching studio art there for over 40 years. She currently resides and continues to produce her artwork in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We are thrilled that she is here this evening. Please welcome Linda Lomahaftewa.
Thank you for Reservoir Museum for electing me to be the honored artist of the year 2025. I'm really honored to be in and have my exhibition here. I think you said everything about me, so I don't have to say anything. We'll just give a repeat. Yes, I'm Hopi and Choctaw, and I meant to start out by saying how I feel. That's hello in Choctaw. My parents met in boarding school, and they both could speak their languages fluently, but they couldn't speak to each other because they're 2 different languages, right? So we learned, growing up a little bit from both sides. Also during that time, when they were in boarding school, they didn't want them to speak their languages. So a lot of the languages are being lost that way. So I'm really happy or glad that, we did learn what we could from both sides of my culture. So in my work, I've always, ever since I can remember, like 5 years old, like I always said I wanted to be an artist, so I just kind of kept with it, and teaching just kind of fell into my lap. So I was encouraged by my family to do my artwork, and I really am grateful for that. I have my daughter and my son-in-law and my granddaughter here tonight with me, and I'm glad that they're here to support me. My family tries to support me in any way that they can, and I really appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, so I started boarding school in the 8th grade, and when we were Phoenix Indian boarding school, and in 1972, the Institute of American Indian Arts opened up. And it is a boarding school for Native American nations from all across the United States. So I had to apply and be accepted into the school. And this was nice school. So I started at the age of 16 years old going to Institute of American Indian Arts. Finished high school and then went to the San Francisco Art Institute. We received a lot of my paintings from the beginning of the year. Well, it starts with my high school days. So the colors are kind of to me muddy, but eventually, as I learned how to use color, and all those paintings at the beginning were all in oil. So once I learned how to use color, mix and blend and everything, then colors started to get brighter and clearer. So, but I do use my cultural background for a lot of my work, from stories that I can remember that my father and relatives have told me, also my mother, and I try and blend both of my cultures into my work, which is kind of hard to do, but there are some similarities. I've noticed that in the southeast, Hmong culture, in the southwest, Hopi mixes. So, and in my travels, I've also noticed that with indigenous people that there are a lot of similarities in symbolism and stories that we share together. So that really helps in strengthening our work. So, Michele said I had 6 minutes to talk. Not very long. I'm a visual artist, so. If you have questions that you want to ask me, you can have it answered when we get out there. I don't know what else to say other than to really thank the Fresno Art Museum for and everyone that puts the show together, because I know it's a lot of work. Thank you everyone for being here tonight.
So thank you, everybody. That concludes our Curator Artist Talks. Thank you for a full house. This is fabulous. We're so thrilled with everybody who helped support these exhibitions, helped us bring artists from far away and do the very best we can for you. So enjoy your evening and we'll see you out there. Thank you.